Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson on a Wednesday edition of Husker247 Daily. It's the football bye week, so we're talking hoops today. Nebraska polishes off Maryland Eastern Shore, not East Shore, Eastern Shore.
Yep.
69-50 last night. Kind of an ugly game. Nebraska didn't shoot particularly well in this one. Things are going to get more difficult, Brian, but let's first take stock of where things are at for Nebraska after some very, very some tune-up games. Give me two quick thoughts on what stands out most about this team right now. And kind of what you've learned. So, two things you've learned so far from this group, from Maryland Eastern Shore with West Georgia and Florida International. What have we learned about this crew aside from just where these schools are?
Yeah. Well, first off, this might be like, yeah, we know, but a couple months ago with Rienk Mast, I think you probably wondered like how much of a runway or lead in is he going to need to the season, or is he going to just be like that guy right off the bat? And so if we're asking for like a summarization of the first three games, you got to think about like the second game. He has a triple-double, has a double-double at halftime. And the way he just quarterbacks this team and how healthy he looks is really exciting. Like that's been a very promising thing. And so I don't think we should take that for granted, because you always wondered how he was going to come back from such a serious injury. And he's just looked really dialed in. And this team needs his voice. They need him on offense to be that guy who can get them easy layups the way he can facilitate and spread the floor around him. And it's been really good. So that part's encouraging. I wonder, as I have all offseason, about this team's athleticism. That remains. So that's sort of a second thing. But I would say, as a punchback to that, they've played, even though the competition has been lesser, good defense so far. Like they've been good on that end of the floor. And I think that was something you wondered about, because you heard how this team's just, everybody's a shooter. And that was sort of the staple and the thing everybody would latch onto. But like, last night, they did not shoot well, actually. 6 of 32 behind the arc. And they played really good defense, though. And I know that the team they're playing leaves something to be desired. By the way, I got to say this. Maryland Eastern Shore went to overtime, Bruntz, with Georgia Tech, 56-52. They lost. And they also lost to Georgia 94-29.
Wow.
So they have quite the resume coming in. And I think you posted it there. Was it their Ken Palm ranking?
Yeah, I was looking to see where they're at, and you keep scanning. I think they were 359 out of 365 coming into last night's game.
It's not impressive.
No.
They were kind of an interesting team. They pressed a lot, and Nebraska only turned it over 7 times. Nebraska actually got wide open shots, but didn't hit them. But the defense held them to 21% in the first half. The last 7 minutes, Maryland Eastern Shore kind of made a run. But I think the defense so far has been pretty good for Nebraska. But now we'll see against Oklahoma, who they'll play Saturday in Sioux Falls. They're 2-1. They lost to Gonzaga, so the loss on the Sooners' resume isn't anything to be ashamed of. So that's the first big test where we see if that defense is really portable.
Obviously this is a team that when they're shooting well can really just kind of shoot teams out of the gym. But is this, do you kind of have to prepare as a Nebraska basketball fan for the potential boom and bust here with what they've got offensively?
Yeah, possibly. And I think that's what they're trying to push back with being good on that other end of the floor. But it's something you wonder about when you get into playing better teams. Like, they're going to obviously on Saturday have to have one of those days where you hit 12 threes, something like that. That's how this team sort of made, maybe even more than that. They hit 17 of 34 on Saturday. So they are capable, like you're getting at, of just going off. They had 29 assists, which was like a record that goes back, decades for Nebraska basketball. So they share it really well, and they're getting the looks, but they are that team where against these games upcoming, you're going to need guys like Sanford to be hot, and a Sejan who didn't score last night to find it. So the good thing is they've got 4 or 5 guys who on a given night can get going from deep, and that's not what they had last year. It felt like if a Sejan was off, we always like, oh, a Sejan was 1 of 8, to make. There's a lot on his shoulders because there weren't other guys who could consistently make threes for him. And so this year that's different, and hopefully that helps them in these games upcoming.
Obviously, Rienk's a big piece of this, but is there another guy that you kind of focus on during a game of this is the other guy that they need to be consistent more often than not on the floor?
Yeah, I think Frager actually is going to become that guy, or is that guy. Even though he's so young, he had a quiet game yesterday, but he's just such a table setter for him with his energy and that stuff. Sam Hoiberg is too. Sam had a great game last night, and people can knock him for not scoring sometimes or whatever, but he does so many other things, and he played really well. But I think Frager has shown already that he's capable of, going off for double-digit games, but also being that guy who's going to dive on the floor and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to see him in a game like Saturday, sort of how he responds to it.
Sam Hoiberg's going to become just like a stat filler. I mean, he's averaging 7-7, 6-3 rebounds a game, 13 assists, 2 turnovers, 8 steals. I mean, he does kind of just do a little bit of everything, and probably gets overlooked a little bit in that conversation, I think.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to say him, because everybody always does pass by him. And he's been starting, and he had 7 defensive rebounds in the first half last night. And he goes after it. Like the bigs get locked up, and he goes and clears it out, and he'll come in from the back and get the rebound. And so he's obviously a good defender. We've seen him shut down like really good Big Ten players in key moments for this program. And so, you could say him too. Like, I don't want to overlook him at all. He's going to be like one of the biggest parts of this team as a leader, and what this group can get done defensively, which they're trying to take a step there.
Obviously with, high major competition, you've got Oklahoma this weekend. You've not far away from the start of Big Ten play as well. Physicality, rebounding. I mean, do we know much there yet, or is that kind of the big question that needs to be answered coming down the stretch here?
I think it needs to be answered still. I'm not like down on that they can do it and hold their own, but they're going to have Burke give them a lot on the boards. Obviously, Rienk's going to help, but they need their guards to rebound really well. You need like that buy-in from Jamarcus Lawrence and Sam Hoiberg, and so we'll see. Like OU's a team that was in the NCAA tournament last year. Obviously, that's a really good league in basketball. And so that's a squad that's seasoned and guys who have played a lot of physical games. And so I think we're going to learn a lot Saturday to that question you're asking. I don't know for sure what the answer is, but that's where they got to show it. They got to be a good team on the defensive glass, and they've got to be that team that wins those 50-50 balls too. And that's where guys like Frager come into play.
And on this one, Leo Curtis, is he going to be a factor once they get into Big Ten play?
He could be. He got in for 9.5 minutes yesterday, and I thought played really well. I'm looking at his stats right now. Scored 6 points, had a dunk. He had a nice play where he just used his 7'2" size and like volleyballed it over to a teammate for a layup. And he's really fluid for a guy his size, and I'm really encouraged by him. And I think you might have thought this too when we went over there and took pictures at one of their practices. He's a little more built than I suspected he would be. Like he's going to keep obviously working at that with Kurt Joseph over there, but he's not just like a street pole, he's a guy who I think he has some size. And so I think there's a possibility he could work himself into that guy who can give you, 6 to 7 minutes maybe in league games and stuff like that. So definitely a guy I'm optimistic about, I'd say, after the first few games.
Nebraska basketball this weekend up in Sioux Falls, taking on Oklahoma. Brian will be up there for that one. So keep it locked on Husker 24/7 for all the latest from that matchup and Nebraska basketball throughout the season.